Hey everybody. So while you were gone, I went ahead and worked on making some updates to my um, lecture project. I went ahead and updated and cleaned up the navigation bar a little bit. So you'll see here now that we've got our home, we have a products, we can actually see products. There's a shopping cart, so we can actually see what's in our shopping cart and do a checkout. Added an admins menu, so we can do user and order management. Move the logout information over to the right hand side. I'm not going to walk through all of those aesthetics, but if you have an interest in how I did those things, make sure you go and check out my GitHub repository. You can find out that information as part of the Module 10 commit. But that is where you'll find that information. But most of it's aesthetics. There's a little bit of functionality. I did add a checkout, so when you come in here into products and you say I want to buy a couple of these things and you add them to your cart and you click checkout, there is a checkout process that occurs that actually takes the cart in and checks you out. I don't have a confirmation screen. That'll be part of this lecture module, but I wanted to kind of just give you the rundown. Jumping into the Server Explorer, I did add an order and an order items table. So the mechanics here is if we jump into shopping cart, order, and order items, the mechanics here are when you add items to your cart, they show up in this table. So I track the user and that product and the quantity that they're buying. And then when you click that checkout button, two things happen. The order is generated. So we take a stamp of the order time, who the user is, and this basically creates the order record. And then this order record has another table that is a one-to-many that tracks order ID product. So each product from the shopping cart gets added here as a product in the order item. That quantity also gets transferred over, and then we have some date created and date modified. So the order itself has an ID. So order ID 1 for this first one, order ID 2 for the second one. That then gets transferred over here. So each one of the items that's part of that order gets the same order ID. So that's the basic idea of what's happening to track those orders and order items. I've also updated the shopping cart controller to now have a checkout action. Again, all that code's there. I'm scrolling kind of fast if you want to pause it and take a look, but all of it's available on GitHub so you can see in detail what's going on there. So with this module, what I want to actually focus on is doing a whole lot more of the admin side of things. So we're going to be looking at admin user management. And what the goal is I want to be able to look at this screen. I want to be able to pick one of my users, and then I want to modify this details link to actually be the button that lets me view this user's particular orders. So I want to be able to click on view orders instead of details, and then get a list of all the orders. I want to then be able to go in and edit an order. So by clicking on that, see what products are in that order, and then be able to add and remove items from that order from that management screen. So that'll be the goal of this module. And what we'll be working to do over the rest of this module is to get all of those pieces in place. Now we're going to incorporate a few new technologies along the way, so you're going to be learning some new things. You're going to be learning Web API. We're going to be talking about how do you build web services using the Web API components of ASP.NET. And then we'll start to look a little bit at some jQuery functionality, and we'll be looking at the jQuery autocomplete module so that we can add this autocomplete functionality when we go to search and find and add a product to our order. So that'll be the goal. So just to kind of start out, start kind of slow, is we'll go into our admin area. And under my view for manage users, I have one view, one .cshtml file, and that is basically this view here that you saw. So I want to change this details to say view order. So we'll jump down here to where I have my details link, and right now it's going to the user profile. We can actually leave that here, and let's go ahead and just add another one, this HTML action link, view order. And then this is going to go to our order manager, and we're going to call the order details action off of our order manager controller. Now some of you may be going, well, where is that? What does that look like? That doesn't exist yet, and that's correct. So I'm kind of thinking ahead for myself to say I'm going to eventually need to create an order manager, and I'm going to have to create an order details action inside of that order manager to be able to show the details of this order. So part of that will be this particular user, and I guess it's not so much order details, this will be an order list, and then we'll pass in here a new, this will be the user ID, and then we will have no HTML attributes, and we'll add a bar there. So what this line is essentially saying is we want the link to say view order or view orders. We want to then create an action called order list, which will list all of the orders, and we may say order list by user, so that way we can have multiple order list methods. There will be an order manager controller, and then inside of all of this we'll pass in the user ID into the order list by user action. So again, this is me kind of thinking ahead. None of this code exists, but this is me planning out in preparation for what I'm going to need to do in order to show the order list by users. So I'll go ahead and save that, and we'll jump into the controller. And we have a manage users controller. I'm going to right click, do add controller, and I called this the order manager. So I'm going to choose an empty controller, and we can call it order manager, or I may actually change it up just for consistency and call it manage orders controller. So we'll say manage orders, and I'm going to copy that part that I typed in because I want to replace it in my view. So I'm kind of working to balance things out as I'm talking and as I'm thinking. Things do change and flux, and you sometimes make decisions as you're building, and that's okay as long as you know what you're doing and you're paying attention to it and you're keeping things in check. So just to kind of give you a quick synopsis of what I just did in my head here as I'm talking to you, is I originally called it order manager. I came into controllers, I wanted to add that order manager controller, and I saw, hey, I already have a controller called manage users. It would probably make sense for me to stick with that syntax since I already called it manage users. This should be called manage orders. So I went ahead and said, okay, I'll call it manage orders. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to hit OK. It's going to scaffold me a new controller. I'm going to jump back into the index of manage users where I'm calling for this order list by user, and I'm going to replace order manager with manage orders. So now this is the name of the controller that I just created. Manage orders here, manage orders controller here. Now I have the order list by user. That's the name of the action that I want to call. Therefore, I need to create that action in my controller. So if I jump to manage orders controller, this will be a public action result of order list by user. Now an input parameter needs to be passed in here. And the reason I know that is because when I built out my link, I'm passing in a user ID. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come over here. That user ID will be an int. I'll just put that integer, name it user ID. So this is where I will do work to get orders and list them to the user. This user being the person that's logged in, that's interacting. So that'll be my next step, is to actually implement this action. The end goal here will be to return a view. And that view that we're going to return will be a list of order. And we need to add the reference there. So this will be the user's orders. So we'll get there. And then we'll return that list of orders. And then we'll have a view that lists all of those orders as well. So we'll do the next part as part of the next video.